Welcome back to my channel, ladies and gentlemen. So this is my top 10 Archfiend cards. So this video is a top 10 of what I think are the best Archfiend cards in the game. So this is, just for fun. This is what I think the top 10 list would be. Your list might differ to mine, and I'm going to be basing my list based off of how relevant these Archfiend cards are in an Archfiend deck, how useful they are, how much utility they've got, and so on. And if there's something you disagree with my list, I really want to hear in the comment section what you think your top 10 list is, and which point in my list you disagree with, or maybe even agree with. So without further ado, let's crack on with number 10. So at number 10, we've got everyone's favorite skeleton, Summon Skull. Now, maybe a bunch of you might now be enraged with me, thinking, how could I possibly put Summon Skull at number 10? Thinking about it, it's not the best Archfiend card in the world, but I think it's good enough that it actually hits number 10 on the list. So if you think about how many Archfiend cards actually exist in the game, there's quite a lot of them. I think I just type in Archfiend into Yugioh Pro and there's 92 results. So being able to reach top 10 of Summon Skull is pretty good. He makes the list. Forget the fact that he is a vanilla fiend, doesn't really do much by himself. But the retrains, all of them flow into Summon Skull, and basically because of that, Summon Skull has its own sub-category within the Archfiend archetype. And if you're using a build dedicated to Summon Skull, obviously you're going to be using it at least one copy, potentially even two, maybe even three if you include cards like Fusion Deployment. And if you're managing to turbo out the Summon Skull retrains fairly often, you're going to be floating into this card pretty much all the time, for rank 6 plays and for going back into, for example, Archfiend's Manifestation. So this card by itself doesn't do much, but its utility in dedicated Summon Skull decks and for general grind in normal Archfiend decks makes it worthy of at least the top 10 spot. So number 9 is Imprisoned Queen Archfiend. So this is a card that perhaps a lot of you might be overlooking, and to be honest, I overlooked it for a while as well. So it's a level 8 fiend, which is perfect for the Dark Spirits. Its stat line is horrible, even defensive wise, right, with 1700, you're not going to be milling it off of Master King anytime soon. 26 is really bad for level 8, so it can get bumped up a little bit higher with Archfiend's Labyrinth, but still, its stats aren't that good. But what makes it number 9 on the list is the fact that it has some form of utility with Master King Archfiend and the Dark Spirits. If you have Master King Archfiend on your side of the field during your standby phase, Imprisoned Queen's maintenance cost means you have to pay 1000 life points, and in doing so, Master King is going to allow you to mill a fiend from your deck to the graveyard with 1000 attack or defense. So most notably, it's going to be Archfiend Heiress, and that allows you to search for any Archfiend card, right? So you're getting an Heiress search in your standby phase, which means you're no longer restricted to having to search through cards like Void Apocalypse. You've now got more options open to you, and its maintenance cost means if you can't pay it, it automatically gets destroyed. So in the grind game, if you float into Imprisoned Queen Archfiend from Archfiend Empress, during your standby phase, it will instantly die, and your Dark Spirits will then regenerate and go back into your hand. So that means you don't have to then figure out a way to out your own fiend in order to recycle those Dark Spirits, right? You can just blow it up in a standby phase, get 1 to 2 cards back into your hand, and then you've got those additional resources to help push you through the next turns in that particular game, right? So because of its utility, it's going in at number 9. It's got the Pandemonium effect as well, which, it's okay. It's pretty bad, but if you're playing a Chess Archfiend build, for example, you can target a level 4 or lower fiend, boost its attack by 1000. Could come up, but that's not why it's on this list. Alright, so coming in at number 8, so this is an Archfiend card top 10 list, we have Falling Down. So this card is a bit hit and miss, right? So it's broken in the fact that it's quite literally Snatch Steal, which no other archetype really has. So the new Mikanko archetype kind of has this sort of monster controlling aspect to them, but until then you're only going to get this through cards like Mind Control or Brain Control or something similar, Change of Heart, right? But Falling Down is unrestricted, right? It's at 3. So as long as you control an Archfiend card, you can equip it onto your opponent's monster and take control of it, and then you just take 800 damage during your standby phase. So the reason why it's coming in at number 8 and it's not any lower, so first of all, the 800 damage isn't a life point cost, you just take it, which means you can in some circumstances you can actually kill yourself by paying that 800 life points. But also it's one of those cards where it's really good, but it's also clunky. So if you're going first, it's completely of no use to you if you draw it in your opening hand. And in an Archfiend deck, right, it's a bit of a Frankenstein deck. You need all those spaces to count. So if you open 1 or even 2, or even in the worst case, if you open all 3 copies, you are really screwing yourself over, because there's only so much that you can do turn 1 and you're already 3 cards down, right? So going second, yeah, it's pretty good. But for now, I tend to always play Archfiends going first, because I need to put something on board without their opponent making some crazy unbreakable board that I just can't crack. So for now it's this high, until going second builds get a bit more optimal, then we can start playing this card again, and then the metal will be shaking in their boots. Alright, so coming in at number 7, so this is another spell card, and this is Archfiend Labyrinth. So of course, Archfiends have 2 field spells, which is not bad, right? We've got Pandemonium, and you can search out cards with it. But Archfiend Labyrinth boosts all your fiends by 500, which is not that bad, considering all our Archfiends have really high attack to begin with. Emperor goes up to 3500, Empress, right, goes over the 3000 range as well. Most of them do, to be honest. And it has this effect where you can also summon additional Archfiends from your hand, deck, or graveyard. But Konami, in their amazing overbalancing fashion, they made it so you target that monster and then you banish it. And Archfiends really work off of being destroyed. So that's why this card is so really weak in that sense. If you could just destroy your Empress, special summon an Emperor, and then trigger an Empress revive, that would be amazing. But for now, it's this high on the list because you have to banish your monsters, and then there's no real way of recycling those monsters unless you use Trance Archfiend, which is suboptimal. Or if maybe in the future, if we can use those Chaos cards, we might be able to recycle the Odd Thing. So maybe this will see some sort of play moving forward. Alright, so coming in at number 6 is a continuous trap. So we've got Call of the Archfiend. So this is actually a pretty good card, right? So you target level 5 or higher fiend in the graveyard, discard a fiend monster, and then you summon that fiend onto your side of the field. And that's a hard once per turn. So the good thing is that the discard isn't for cost. So anything that you want to trigger in hand, you can. Most notably, you're going to be sending Archfiend Heiress into the graveyard, so you can summon a monster and then get a free search at the same time. So basically it turns into a +1. You can send your level 8 fiends into the graveyard to get some Dark Spirit recycles as well, so that's pretty good. The only reason why it's not higher on the list is because it's a continuous trap, and if you activate it and then your opponent destroys it, that's basically it negated. Yeah, so that really screws you over. But it is searchable, and it's really good for the grind game. So you can even use it during the battle phase to push for game as well. All in all, it's a pretty solid card. You can run 1 or 2 of them in your Archfiend deck and you'll be just fine. And so coming at number 5 is a very similar card to Call of the Archfiend. It's the really old Archfiend's Roar. So this, in my opinion, is objectively better than Call of the Archfiend, thanks to a bunch of new support that we've got in the game now. So Archfiend's Roar is a normal trap, and by paying 500 life points, you can target an Archfiend monster in the graveyard and revive it onto your side of the field. Then at the end of the turn, that monster gets destroyed. There's a number of reasons why this card is better than Call of the Archfiend. One, it's a normal trap, which means if they try to out it through the ways I mentioned with Call of the Archfiend, it doesn't matter. It will go to the grave, but you will still summon your Archfiend monster. It targets Archfiend monsters and not Fiend monsters. So in those really annoying scenarios where you're against a zombie deck, so Bela Droch Control for example, they slap down Zombie World, you can still use Archfiend's Roar, target any of your Archfiends and revive them for a turn, and that at least allows you to do some sort of play against a matchup like that. Whereas Call of the Archfiend, you have to target Fiends, and as you know, Zombie World turns everything in the graveyard into zombies, so that can really screw you. In addition to that, it has all of the normal trap support, and it also has all of the Labyrinth support as well. So all the Labyrinth cards have effects. If monsters leave the field through a normal trap card, then you get additional bonuses, right? So the Servants allow you to search and special summon and draw. The Lovely Lady cards allow you to destroy cards on your opponent's side of the field or in their hand. Destruction off of Archfiend's Roar means you're going to remove something on the field through a trap card effect, and that allows you to really plus if you're doing a Labyrinth focused build. So that is way more beneficial than just summoning a monster each turn off of Call of the Archfiend. So that's why I think it's objectively better. The 500 life point cost can synergize with Master King as well if you have a target in your deck, so that's not too bad either. Right, so coming in at number 4, we've got a bit of a spell and trap fiesta here. So we've got a Deal with Dark Ruler. So this is a quick play spell, which for all intents and purposes, in any deck that isn't an Archfiend deck, it's not very good. But because it counts as an Archfiend card, we can at least search it off of Archfiend Heiress. It's a quick play, which means you can always do it on your opponent's turn, or you can just keep it in your hand ready and waiting for pushing for game or something. But pretty much what it does is if level 8 or higher monster leaves your field, you can special summon a Berserk Dragon from your hand or deck. That can be really devastating because Berserk Dragon has 3,500 attack and can attack every monster on your opponent's side of the field. So that, if you're pushing for game, pretty much guaranteed, to be honest. The only reason why this isn't higher on the list is because, first of all, Berserk Dragon is a zombie, and it loses attack each time. But the fact that more often than not, the annoying thing about a Deal with Dark Ruler is you can brick with it. So it's really good in the grind game and later on in the game. So if you're a few turns in, so turn 4 or something like that, then it can be good. But turn 1, if you open a Deal with Dark Ruler, or if you open a Deal with Dark Ruler and Berserk Dragon, that's really bad, because then you've got 1 or 2 cards in your hand that you could have been dedicated to something else, such as an extender, and you've just slowed yourself down. It's probably guaranteed your opponent's just going to win. So yeah, it's great, just not in the early game. Right, so top 3 now. So coming in at number 3, this is quite hard to figure out because there's, like I say, there's over 90 Archfiend cards in the game. So I'm just really trying to think about which cards really facilitate the playstyle of Archfiends and which ones have the most utility. So number 3, I've chosen one of the newest Archfiends, Labyrinth Archfiend. So the nice thing about Labyrinth Archfiend is it's level 7. So if you normal summon Emperor with Pandemonium on your side of the field, you can search it out. In Labyrinth focused builds, that gives 2 ways, almost 3 ways in which you're going to search out Labyrinth Archfiend. So you've got the Servants, you've got Pandemonium. My cat has come to play, apparently. Yeah, so pretty much you can search it off of multiple means in an Archfiend deck, particularly in Labyrinth-focused builds. And also, it's one of the only Archfiend monsters that can actually summon itself from the hand. So if you activate a trap card, you can special summon Labyrinth Archfiend from your hand. And if you do that, you can search for a battle trap. So you can search for a trap card that happens when your opponent declares an attack. So it could be any of the Mirror Force cards. Most often you're going to pick Fair Welcome Labyrinth because that pops a card on their side of the field. It negates attacks, and it also allows you to search for a non-Labyrinth trap card from your deck, set it straight onto your side of the field. So you can search for an Archfiend's Roar, for example, and allow the grind game to continue. Lots of utility. It also gains attack for every normal trap card in your graveyard, which is really strong. So it can easily become a very powerful beater, so over 3,000 attack quite easily. And it also has the effect where monsters cannot attack fiends except for Labyrinth Archfiend. All in all, it's got a fairly solid list of effects, and it's a welcome addition to a dedicated Archfiend deck. So coming in at number 2, top 2 now, people. I personally think Archfiend Heiress deserves the number 2 spot on the list. We won't really be able to get very far without Archfiend Heiress because it's one of our only searchers in the entire deck. Over 90 cards, 1 searcher. Come on, Konami. So basically, even so, the effect is really clunky, right? So when it's sent to the graveyard by a card effect, so you can't even just discard it, right? Then you can search for an Archfiend card from your deck, and it's hard once per turn. So at least it can search for literally any Archfiend card that you want. That really helps for facilitating plays, whatever you might want to do. If you want to search for an Emperor, pop a card on the field, recycle some Dark Spirits, you can do. You can also search for Labyrinth Archfiend, activate a trap, summon it from the hand, job done. Search for Palabyrinth, search for Deal with Dark Ruler, whatever it might be that you want to search for, Archfiend Heiress has got you covered. You can be summoned off of Tour Guide if you like. You can go into a Fortune Tune and discard for its effect. Also Zen Mains, which is going back now, but you can do that sort of thing. With Master King as well, it's got fantastic synergy because it has 1,000 attack. So if you're paying 1,000 life points, Archfiend Heiress is going to get sent to the graveyard, and then you can search for an Archfiend card. Master King is going to put it straight back into the deck, and then you're going to have another copy for next turn. Basically, you have a way to have infinite Archfiend Heiresses in your deck to search for whatever you like. Now, finally, coming in at number 1, so I was really unsure to go one way or the other, but I'm thinking my number 1 spot is going to be Archfiend Empress. So I was going to say Master King Archfiend, pretty much for the reasons I've mentioned. So paying life points allows you to mill stuff. So I think for an honourable mention, Master King Archfiend is going to be there because he really facilitates a lot of the stuff that you can do with Archfiends, but you have to have other cards to pay life points for in order to make its effect work. So that's why it's just an honourable mention on this list and not really in the top 10. But Archfiend Empress is the greatest of all time, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a level 8 fiend, fantastic, works with the dark spirits. It has an effect where, overlooked effect, where if one of your dark fiend type monsters would be destroyed, you can banish a fiend from your graveyard instead. So that's really good. And then also, if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target a level 6 or higher dark fiend monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So that's the whole gimmick of Archfiend in a nutshell. Just revive level 6 or higher fiends constantly with these really high attacks and just beat over your opponent with these massive monsters. So 2900 attack is pretty good. 2100 defense is alright. And the whole point really is the revival effect is not once per turn, so that's great. So the whole idea, right, you get a dark spirit, revive an empress dies, it can revive, I don't know, a cursed necrophyr or an imprisoned queen archfiend or something. And if you've got additional means to revive the empress, so a different dark spirit or an archfiend's roar, then you are going to revive her and then keep reviving these big beefy fiends on your side of the field. It's one of the main reasons why you play Archfiends in this day and age. The deck really wouldn't be the same without this card, so I think it has to be at the #1 spot. But that's just my opinion, right? I'm sure you've got opinions as well. Please let me know in the comments section if you agree with this list. Please let me know if there are any cards that you would include instead. Like, let me know your top 10. I'd love to have this discussion with you. But that about wraps it up. So if you enjoyed this video, my name's Adam. If you didn't, my name's Steve. If you'd like to see more Archfiend related duels, reviews, combos and discussions, then feel free to have a browse. Give this video a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified when content like this is uploaded in the near future. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you around.